Hi, everyone. We're going to get started. Thank you so much for being here. My colleague, Kristy, and I have been hard at work to put together a presentation for you that will give you sort of a overarching view, the nuts and bolts of PR and marketing so that you can do a stellar job after leaving here and promoting your work, your organization, your performance. So again, thank you so much for being here. Just a couple of housekeeping items. The bathrooms, should you need them, are at the left of this space. So if you exit out the lovely glass doors that you came through and go to your left, you will find the restrooms there. As a courtesy to your neighbors, please put your cell phones on silent. Everyone should have received, when they came in, a packet, a resource packet. So if you did not grab one, please let us know. We're going to be referring to it. And I hope you all also received an evaluation. At the end of the workshop, we would greatly appreciate you taking a brief second to fill that out to give us some feedback on how we can make this even better for you guys. I want to be very mindful of your time, so we are going to try our hardest to wrap this up promptly at 1. However, if we run over a few minutes, feel free to stay. We do want to get to questions at the end, should you have any. However, if you need to leave at 1, feel free to go ahead and do that. So thank you so much for being here. Welcome to Get Noticed PR and Marketing for ATX Creatives, which I assume is all of you. So my name is Kathleen Stempert, and I oversee PR and marketing for the city's Cultural Arts Division. And the Cultural Arts Division does a number of things, but one of the things we do is we oversee the Art in Public Places program, which is responsible for many of the artworks that you see in city-owned land and new construction across Austin. We also have a cultural funding arm that extends grants to individual artists and arts organizations. And we have, under that funding program, just a whole host of different programs. So always feel free to check austincreates.com to receive more information on whether or not you or your group may be eligible for some of those funding programs. And we also are responsible for initiating and conducting studies that look at the economic impact of the arts in Austin. A recent initiative that we have is the Creative Space Survey. You might have seen information on that at the table out front. And what we are in the process of doing is gathering input from all of you about what your needs are as local artists in terms of studio space, performance space, etc. So we would really appreciate your feedback. And if you have a moment, jump on and take that survey. So just a brief bit about myself and then about my colleague Kristy, and then we'll get moving. As I mentioned, I oversee communications for the Cultural Arts Division. For the past 20 or so years, I have done PR and marketing for arts organizations specifically. I spent 8 years in New York doing PR for galleries and museums, and then spent another 8 years at the Blanton Museum of Art here in Austin serving as their PR and marketing director. And I'm thrilled now to be at CAD. And I'd like to introduce you to my colleague, Kristy Reeves. She and I will be tag teaming on the presentation. So Kristy.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for being here. So that's us, you may recognize us from here. So my name is Kristy Reeves, and I am by day a public relations director for a communications agency. And we specialize in hospitality and tourism and also nonprofits. Then I'm also on the City of Austin Arts Commission. And I'm also a storyteller and have been performing spoken word, slam poetry, storytelling for a long time. And so I have sort of approached PR and marketing from the point of view of an artist trying to hustle and get people in the seats to see my one-woman show, which isn't always easy to do. And then I am a PR director by trade, and then I also was co-owner of the North Door, a music venue here in town. So when looking at public relations, I've kind of approached it from every angle over the past 15 years, and so I hope to share some of the insight I've learned as an artist, as a venue owner, as a publicist, some insights and tips for doing your own PR. So yeah, that's me. All right. So, all right. Curious, how many people here have done their own PR or marketing before? So everyone, okay. And so how many here are performing artists? Okay, and visual artists? Okay, and other? Okay, I like the other, yes. Good. Well, I'm so glad you guys are here today. We're covering a lot of material. As you know, this is a 3-part workshop. So today we're going to cover the fundamentals of PR and marketing. And we're going to move through a lot of material quickly, but this resource packet is going to give you the information you need when you leave today. That's going to be really helpful. In here you're going to find a press release, a sample of a pitch letter. You're going to find a media list with actual arts media on here, calendar listings information, and just some other valuable information because, like I said, we're going to be moving so quickly today through this information, kind of giving you an overview of public relations and marketing, and this will give you a chance to kind of soak in the info after you leave. And this will be available online, and we're filming it today, so if you need a recap, the information will be online. So, okay, public relations and marketing. A lot of people think it's the same thing, and it can be a little confusing what the difference is. So first we wanted to go over the difference between PR and marketing. So public relations is earned media, as we like to call it. That's communications with the media outlets and the public about you or your art or your organization. And the tactics for public relations include press releases, pitching to the media, reputation management, media influencers, company messaging, public speaking, and social media. And marketing is going to be your paid media, right? So anything that's advertising. These are external marketing efforts that include paid ad placements, swag, newsletters, websites, social media, advertising, sponsored content, sales materials. So anything that you pay for is considered marketing, and anything that is earned that you work for, like through editorial coverage and how you communicate with the public, that's public relations. So does that make sense to everybody? Sort of? Kind of? Okay. Oh, one last thing. So advertising is what you pay for. Publicity is what you pay for. That's a good little quote to kind of help you differentiate between the two. So we're going to dive right into PR. Ideally, when you walk away from here today, you're going to be able to have a sense of how to build your own PR plan. And so whether you have a show coming up, whether it's a performance or an art show, or maybe you're about to launch your organization, whatever it is, we want to give you the tools to create your own PR plan, your PR campaign, and walk away and execute it. And so that's what we're going to go over. So the very first thing that you're going to want to do is build a PR plan. Just with any big project in your life, making a to-do list is really important, right? So that's ultimately what a PR plan is. And a PR plan, this is going to help you get organized. It's going to serve as your roadmap to executing all of these tasks because there's a lot to do and it can get overwhelming. So first you want to establish your goals and then create your messaging for your organization or your artist statement, and then gather creative assets, develop your timeline, determine who you're trying to get to notice you, and then engage the media. So first off, establish your goals. Why are you doing this? Why do you want to do PR? What is the purpose of your PR strategy? Do you want to sell tickets? Do you want to grow your audience? Do you want to increase awareness of your organization or you as an artist and bolster your reputation? Do you offer advocacy or education programs? Are you trying to fundraise or increase membership to your organization? So establishing those goals is the first place to start. Once you kind of understand what your goals are, you're going to move into what I think are really the key elements of your PR plan here. These things, creating your messaging, this is gonna be essential for PR and marketing, okay? So this is something that if you haven't taken the time to do, that I recommend that everyone do. It takes a little bit of time, and it can be really hard to write about yourself, but these are necessary pieces in your PR plans. So you wanna create your messaging. So first, create an elevator pitch. How many in here have an artist statement or an elevator pitch about their work already? Okay, so like about half of you. So that's really awesome. So this is just 2 to 3 sentences that succinctly and powerfully explains your work, project, or organization. Then you want to create your boilerplate. So this is an extension of that. This is one paragraph that's going to tell the world about what you do. And then I always recommend creating bios of key people in your organization, whether that's you as an artist or your executive director or your, the leadership team at your organization. So these are always great to have on hand, because when you go out and pitch the media, they're gonna ask for this stuff. They're gonna be like, we're really interested in your executive director. That person seems like they have a great story. Do you have a bio on them? And rather than scrambling and having to spend a couple days trying to get it together, you'll already have it ready. And so all of these components are gonna help you be prepared when the media ideally responds to you and says, we love this, we want to cover you, we need your boilerplate, we need your fact sheet, we need your bios, and you're going to be super prepared and you're going to have them. And then cohesive social media copy, that's pretty self-explanatory. Make sure that your messaging on all your social media outlets is consistent, right? You want to be telling the same story across all of your media all of your media channels, social media channels. So get your writing together. It's probably one of the hardest parts of the PR plan, but it's really essential. Next, you want to get your creative assets together. So this is your logo, your show poster. High-res photos are really important to have and to store in a place that's accessible for media, so Dropbox or Flickr. And these want to be high-res photos that would be good for editorial. So if a publicist or if a journalist were to reach out and say, we want to cover your show, do you have high-res photos of the a key piece of art from your show, or one of the actors on stage performing? So these need to be high-res, accessible to the public, and all organized in one place. It's best to get these ready before you send out your press releases, before you send out, start trying to pitch for whatever it is that you're trying to get the word out on. Develop a timeline. Okay, so the timeline for a PR plan is tricky, but it's best if you work backwards from it. So let's say you have, you're in an improv troupe and you guys are having a 24-hour improv weekend, and you want to get the word out about this 24-hour improv show, right? And that's in November. You're going to want to start from the time of the show and work backwards, and then you're going to plug in all of your tasks, your PR tasks. So if you open your resource packet, on the first page is a sample PR and marketing plan. And like I said, we're going through this stuff kind of fast, but these resources will kind of help you after this, like have an actual tangible roadmap for doing these things. So in this sample PR and marketing plan, you can see the tactics and timeline are kind of halfway through the page. And it's really great to break up your tasks, your actions that you need to take to publicize your event or your organization, and work backwards. So here we have the event is October 29th through the 31st. And so you know that before you do any of that, the very first thing now in August, you need to get your messaging and your branding materials ready. And then you can work backwards, like you want to put your tickets on sale, let's say 4 weeks in advance. You want to send out your press release 6 weeks in advance or 2 weeks in advance. So you want to go ahead and plug all those in and move them around and make sure that you have every task that you need to do for your PR campaign in your timeline. And then you're going to be ready to go. You're going to feel pretty excited and organized, and you're going to be like, all right, I have a plan. And PR stops seeming so sort of vague and murky, and it actually is now in bullet points and an actionable list, which is, I think, exciting, but I like PR a lot, so. And bullet points. Okay, so once you have your PR plan together, you're going to be ready to engage the media. And this is a key element. Media relations, it's a big part of PR, right? So got everything together. you're feeling excited, you're ready to engage the media, and that's kind of the scary part, right? Like, okay, what am I gonna do? I'm gonna send out a press release, I'm gonna send out direct pitches to journalists, and I'm going to sit back and enjoy all the stellar press coverage that I'm gonna get about my amazing show, theoretically, right? So what are these, how do we communicate with the media in a way that is gonna catch their attention? If you guys think about media, journalists get hundreds of emails in their inbox every day, people pitching to them about what they should cover. And for them to weed through the noise and choose your art show or performance or your organization to cover, that's gonna be really tricky. But you're all really creative, intelligent people, I can tell, and you know how to tell a good story, right? And with media engagement, storytelling is a key part of it. So you're gonna wanna learn to tell your story through your press releases and through pitching. And we're gonna go over a few tips and tricks for doing that in a compelling way so that you can cut through the noise and get the media's attention. So a press release, how many here have written their own press release before? Okay, did you guys think it was easy or hard? Hard? Did you feel like you knew what you were doing, or were you kind of just, you felt like you had a guideline, right? Okay, that's good. It can be, you're like shaking your head, you're like, oh no. Well, they can be pretty scary, but there are formulas for press releases that will help you write a really solid, compelling press release that will hopefully garner attention from the media. So first of all, why would you send out a press release? Not because of something silly like because your dog, just got awarded best dog in his training program, obviously, but you would want to send it out for something that's really newsworthy. So what is considered newsworthy? An event, a program, or a performance, obviously. A special recognition, perhaps your organization just received a really amazing grant or just came back from a competitive program in another city and you won a really great award that's worth sharing with the local community. Appointment of a high-profile staff member. Significant changes in your organization, perhaps you're moving or you have new programming direction that you're going in, or a response to hot-button issues, otherwise known as crisis communication, which is something hopefully you guys won't have to do, but that's when something might go wrong. And you need to address that and put out a statement with the media. So those are generally the reasons why you would put out a press release. How to put out a press release, we're gonna dive into that and kind of go through the nuts and bolts of a well-prepared press release. So just a few things to consider. You wanna follow a general format. There is one for press releases. In your resource packet, you'll see that there's a sample press release from the Cultural Arts Division. And it's broken up. You're gonna see that there are, as you follow along, it's going to tell you what everything is and why it's formatted the way it is. And I really recommend following these formats pretty much to the T. You're going to be able to get creative with the language that you use, but following this format is really important. It's what's expected and it's the media standard, or the industry standard. So let's take a look at what a press release should look like. So if you want to follow along, I would definitely recommend it. So for immediate release is going to be at the top of your press release. That means that this can go out to the press and it's ready for public consumption. Media contact, that's going to be you or whoever in your organization is going to be handling any media requests that come in. If you're really busy as, as a director and you're never by your phone, you should make it someone else, like someone who's going to be able to be responsive and communicate eloquently to the media. The headline, this is what's going to capture the journalist's attention. So try to give it a hook, make it compelling and interesting. This is like the meat of what is happening. The subheader, that'll be a supportive line below it that can give some supporting information, perhaps dates or who is organizing the show or where it is, just some additional supporting information. A lead image is always great. We're visual creatures. We love photos. So if you have a high-res, really interesting photo of your art in action, place it here, and then we're going to dive right into the lead paragraph. This is the most important paragraph of your press release. And you want to always date your press release, sorry, one step backwards. And don't date it for when your show is, date it for the date that it's going out. That's a common mistake that we see. So in the first paragraph, you want to include the 5 W's: who, what, where, when, why. You want to assume that the journalist isn't going to read past the first paragraph of your press release. So you want to get all of the major information. We're doing a show, it is on this date, it is amazing because, and it's produced by, period, okay? So make sure you get all of the vital information in the first paragraph. And then from there, you can go on and write your supporting paragraphs, which is gonna be like the meat of your press release. This is where you can get into details and why your show or your art is unique. This is where you can also include a quote from a leader in your organization or from the artist, and the quote will be speaking to the nature of the news that's going out. That way a journalist can pull the quote directly from the press release and include it in any coverage that they might have. So getting a quote in there is not necessary, but it's really encouraged. So the body of the press release, fit all the details that you can in there, make it interesting, tell your story, but also try to keep it succinct. So that's the trick here, right? You could probably talk for 20 pages about why your organization or your art is amazing, but most journalists don't have time to read all of that. So try to keep it succinct and compelling. There's a fine balance there. And then to end it, always include the 3 little hashtags at the bottom. That suggests that or indicates that the press release has ended. And then at the bottom, you're gonna always include a boilerplate, and that's gonna be your artist statement or your, what we covered earlier, the 1 paragraph about who your organization is. So, yeah. We're gonna do questions afterwards. So if you have any questions, just write them down and we'll be happy to answer them in detail. Again, I know we're going through this stuff pretty quickly, but due to our time today, we will try to address any questions afterwards. Okay, so that's kind of press release 101. Just some tips to consider. If you look in your resource packet, we have additional tips for writing a press release. You guys, I just can't tell you how important it is to spell check and to use the same font and to format your press release in a professional way. If you yourself are an amazing sculptor or dancer, but a terrible writer, find someone in your organization or a colleague or a peer or a family member that's a good communicator to help you write this. Because you could have a really great show that can be overlooked by the media because you didn't have a good press release to share the information about your show. And we know how hard you work on your art, and that is a skill within itself. And to work that hard on your projects and to not have anyone come and experience whatever art you do it's disappointing. And we think that a first step to getting media coverage is writing a solid press release. So be sure to look at the one that we included in your packet, and then there's additional press release tips. Just some really basic stuff like formatting, spell checking. You want to try to keep it to 1 or 2 pages max. Try to use active language, not passive language. Don't use first person. Don't say, I'm putting on a show this weekend. You'll want to say the show is this weekend. I recommend Googling and reading press releases. That helps. The more press releases you read, the better idea you're going to have of what constitutes a well-written press release. And also avoid marketing jargon. Just don't say it's the most amazing thing you've ever seen, because we don't know if that's true. So you're going to want to, it probably is, but you want to stick to the facts. So that's kind of press release 101. So after the press release, you're going to write that and distribute it to the media that you've identified speaks to your audience. But then what happens? You just wait, right? No, you follow up and you pitch. And that's when you identify media that you're really interested in. Let's say the arts writer for the Statesman or the Chronicle, and you want to pitch them directly. So you want to send them an email to follow up, and you're going to be pitching them directly about your show or your organization. Has anyone ever pitched media directly? Okay, just a few people. It's kind of scary, right? You're like, well, I sent out the press release. No one said anything, or I haven't heard back, so I guess I'll just go put up some flyers and call it a day. Pitching is really helpful. Like I said, journalists get so many emails in their inbox on a daily basis. Yours might get overlooked, or they might want to cover it and forget. So following up with a direct pitch is a really powerful way, and I think it really helps to get the coverage that you're looking for. So who do you pitch to? Journalists that cover your specific area of art. What are you going to pitch? Be brief and direct, and get to the point. 1 paragraph, 2 max, let them know what's going on. We put a sample pitch letter in your resource packet, so look at that. It'll give you an idea of what pitching looks like. Learn the deadlines of your target publications. If you're pitching to something that's going out on digital, you could probably pitch them a few days in advance or a week in advance. If you're pitching that something like Austin Monthly, that's months in advance that it goes to publication. So you have to consider that. And we have a list of media in your resource packet and a list of publications too. You're going to want to look online and in your media list that you're going to craft, like I would say create it in a spreadsheet and put what the lead times are for these publications. So you know that if you want to get coverage in Austin Monthly, you can't pitch them 2 weeks in advance. Know your journalists, read their articles, don't pitch the weatherman. Your dance show, he's not going to be interested. Provide a hook, not the detailed story. Journalists receive so many emails, so make yours stand out. The arts media in town, they're all super nice folks, but they're super busy because look around, there's so many creative people here and you guys are doing amazing work on a regular basis and they have to choose who they're going to cover. They can't cover all of you. And in order to get some insight from these actual journalists, arts media in town, our 3rd workshop is an arts media roundtable, and the arts media from Austin are going to be there, and you're going to be able to ask them questions, and you're going to be able to hear directly from them what they want to hear from you. And I think that that's going to be some really fascinating insights. So I definitely recommend coming to that workshop. More media outreach. So media lists, like I said, you want to build your media list, probably in a spreadsheet, contact names, emails, maybe make notes about who you've pitched, who's covered, who hasn't. You're going to, just start building relationships with these people. They're just people. They're arts writers because they're passionate about the arts. That means they want to know what you're doing, they care about what you're doing, and they probably want to know you as an individual, like not just beyond the press release. So try to get to know them, read the material, familiarize yourself with them, and try to build a relationship with them. Not a creepy one. Don't harass them, don't stalk them, but familiarize yourself with their work and treat them as a human being. Press previews and comps. If you do have an actual performance or a show, we recommend that you provide complimentary tickets to the journalists, or you hold a press preview for your show so they can have a chance to come out and review it and see it and write about it before the show so that people will know that they can come and see it and what to expect. And then calendar listings. How many people here have done calendar listings for their performance? I mean, this is nuts and bolts. It's really boring. It takes a long time. You've got to clear your afternoon to do this, but we have so many great calendar listings in Austin, and it's really essential that you go in and fill out the calendar listings. Lucky for you, we've taken a lot of the work out of it, and we've given you a pretty good list of Austin calendar listings in the back of your packet with some of the main event calendars in town. So you can go there and input all the information for your show or your film or your dance performance. So that is a very quick run through of public relations and media relations and how to get the word out for your organization or your event to the media and to the public through the media. So next we're going to go straight into marketing, and Kathleen is going to take over and talk to you guys a little bit about that.
Okay, so just a quick recap. Marketing usually involves paid strategies, and public relations as Chrissy just detailed, is more about your direct communication with the media and with the public. So let's take a quick look at some things to know about marketing. Well, it all starts and hinges on your brand. Does anyone know what a brand is? And a hint, it is not your logo. Yes?
General result of an organization. Second, presence.
Yeah, yes, essentially yes. Much more than a logo or graphic identity of you or your organization, a brand really is the sum total of your customer or visitor or audience's experience of you. So as an example, I've included the Volvo logo. What do you think of when you see Volvo? Safety, right. There's nothing about this graphic mark that says safety, but over the years, this car company has made it their business through strategic communications and through marketing campaigns to plant in your mind an association between them and safety. So now every time you see Volvo, immediately safety comes to mind. That is an example of how a brand works. You want to build up the personality and the feeling of your audience around your organization so that when they see your logo, and we're going to talk about logos, you do need one, but when they see your logo, it is going to immediately bring to their mind positive, hopefully positive associations with your organization. Okay, so a logo is certainly part of your brand. That is the visual manifestation or the graphic identity that informs your brand. And so it should be reflective of your brand. If you are a very traditional and staid kind of organization, then you might want a graphic identity that reflects that. If you are very experimental, youthful, or witty, you might want some graphics that are more quirky. So again, your logo is not your brand, it is an extension of your brand. All right, so what comes to mind for most people when they think of marketing is paid advertising. And in fact, that is the bulk of marketing strategy. You would first need to look at what budget you have, if any, and don't worry, we are going to talk about low cost and no cost alternatives as well. But if you have a budget to market, you are going to first establish what that budget is, and then you are going to look at the types of outlets, be they print publications, online, collateral, etc., that are most appropriate in selling what you're offering. And this is really important because, for example, if you know that your audience skews, for example, 65 plus, maybe the Austin Chronicle is not the best outlet for you. Each outlet that you are interested in will have what they refer to as a media kit. Look at that. What that is going to tell you is stats that that publication has gathered on the age range of their readers, on the background of their readers, of the interest of their readers. So look at media kits to decide, A, is this the right fit for my group? B, also look at the media kits for the cost of the ads to see if it is something that is feasible for your group. And also included in media kits are what we refer to as specs, and that is just the specifications for if you do submit an ad to them, it will tell you exactly how your file needs to be set up, what size, etc. So the media kits will be a handy reference for you. Chrissy discussed briefly looking at timing in relation to your press release. You also need to look at timing with regard to any marketing strategies because, again, if you are interested in running a print ad, that will need to be submitted to the publisher months in advance. So plan ahead. You'll have much greater flexibility if you're doing something like digital advertising, which are web ads, because those have a much shorter lead time. Another thing to consider when you're looking at print versus digital, print is very expensive. It costs a lot to produce glossy magazines or newspapers, so they charge more for a presence. And the shelf life of print materials is longer, so they charge you more for that reason also. Web ads are much less expensive and can be, and I think they are, equally as effective, and certainly they're becoming increasingly so. So if you have a small budget, don't even look at print. You're going to get the biggest bang for your buck by looking at digital advertising. And the final bullet point from this section, make sure that you have professional, eye-catching designs. If you go to the trouble and expense of purchasing an ad and it's not very compelling, it's going to get lost in and amongst all of the other ads in the publication. So it's really not worth your time. And more important than that, if the ad doesn't look all that great, that is a direct reflection on your organization. So if you are going to do this, if you are going to run ads, make sure that you are a good designer or that you have access to one. And then just a couple of tips to stretch your budget. We talked about the difference between cost in print versus digital, but there are other things you can do. For example, you can, or your organization can, approach different publications. I'll use the Austin Chronicle as an example, about a possible media sponsorship. And in a nutshell, this is just a trade. You will set up a plan with this publication and say, for example, I will include the Austin Chronicle logo on our website, on every poster we do, on every communication we create. We will put the Austin Chronicle logo and we'll list that you are the media sponsor of this event. And in exchange, you can negotiate free ads in the Chronicle. So always remember that media sponsorship is something to consider. And also do something that we refer to as flight your ads. So for example, if you have a marketing budget of $1,000, don't spend the entire $1,000, don't front load it to run all at the beginning of your show. Split that $1,000 up so you do some ads at the beginning of the show, some in the middle, and then some at the end. So you'll build a sustained presence across the media that you're advertising with. It's an easy way to stretch your budget. Okay, let's look at some low cost and or free marketing strategies. This is my favorite, guerrilla marketing. How many of you guys have come across, like maybe during South by, something on the street that was a chalk graphic or some other kind of innovative out-of-the-box plug? I'm sure you have all seen that. Okay, well, just make sure it's legal, whatever you're trying to do, make sure that it's legal. But guerrilla marketing is great because it is very inexpensive or free, and it's unique. It becomes memorable in the minds of your audience because it's not just another ad or another web ad. They are often very unexpected encounters. So make sure it's legal, but you can really get creative with this. When I was at the Blanton, for example, we got some old school Viewmasters. Does everyone remember the things you click through? And on the reel, we included different messaging and images about the museum, and then we distributed them all over town. People found them. It created a social media frenzy. Everyone was posting about it. That was free advertising for us every time someone found one and posted about it. So really think out of the box and figure out if there are non-traditional ways that you can promote your organization or your event. Another thing that you can do is scene building. And along with that is co-promotion. So if you are a theater organization and maybe you go to another theater group in town and say, hey, if you will do a big push on social media and in your e-news to your constituents about our show, we will do the same for you. So leverage one another's audience. That is a free and important way that you can get the word out about your event. Other marketing ideas. Collateral. What is collateral? Collateral involves everything from printed brochures to flyers to posters. Those are other things that you can consider. And in fact, if you have a more modest budget, that may be a more effective way for you to go instead of purchasing print ads. Because you're going to be able to place these things in strategic locations that you know will resonate with your audience, and they're less expensive than traditional advertising. And then everyone's favorite, swag. If you have the budget, why not? People love swag. You can promote your organization through anything from hats and posters to stickers, tote bags, etc. One tip that I would have if you do swag, instead of including a graphic identity that's reflective of a single performance, you would be better served, I think, in doing something that's just evergreen. And by that, maybe just the logo of your organization. Then you can use it forever, and it's not tied to a specific performance. And again, a note about turnaround time. Swag can take a long time to produce, so plan ahead for that. Okay, social media. We are not going to get too, I'm not going to drill down too deeply on social media because our next workshop is dedicated exclusively to social media, but I know I don't have to tell you how critically important it is that you have a presence on social media. And just as I was saying about finding the appropriate fit for publications to advertise, do the same thing with your social media channels. If your audience skews older, you don't need to be on Snapchat. That is a waste of your time and energy. But if the age range of your audience is 16 to 34, you better be on Snapchat. So figure out where your audience is, make sure you have a presence with that social media outlet. And as Kristy mentioned earlier, make your messaging cohesive. So we want to have a sense of who you are that is a thread across all of your communications, including social. So don't come across as traditional and staid on Facebook, but be, quirky and crazy on another outlet. And in social media, keep your messaging professional, but keep it casual. This is not like a press release. This is an area that you can be a little more creative and less formal and casual and social. Post consistently, respond to any comments or questions that you get in a timely manner. Remember the 80-20 rule. Now, I know there's an overarching 80-20 rule that applies to business, but for social, what this means is the bulk of what you post should not be a promotion of your event or your organization. It should be related. So, for example, with cultural arts, I definitely promote things like this workshop that we are doing, but I spend a lot of time promoting work that you all are doing or think pieces that I find that are relevant to the creative field. So, just as you wouldn't want to hang out with somebody that all they're doing is selling themselves all day long, it's the same idea with social media. It's not all about you. 20% should be about you. The rest should be bigger picture. Still connected to, if you are theater, make it about theater or something within the cultural sphere. But 80-20. And then remember, it's a two-way engagement, So if you want to put something in your social that asks a question of your audience, that's fine. You want to facilitate those kind of interactions. And again, please join us for the next workshop, which we will get very deep into the nuts and bolts of social. Okay, and finally, when you're thinking about marketing, get creative. You do not have to be super traditional. Be memorable. Be memorable and timely and witty and on point. I found some terrific examples of successful marketing campaigns. The first two are from groups. Is there anyone from the symphony or the opera here today? Okay. Well, hats off to those two groups. A couple of years ago, the opera, which has now been rebranded as just Austin Opera, did a production of The Marriage of Figaro. Now you can imagine this is a very traditional, old school opera. They could have done a very straightforward advertisement, but instead they told the story in very contemporary, witty, memorable terms. And I will always remember this ad because of it. That is spot on marketing. Likewise, you know, there's really been a shift in arts marketing away from the old school ads that would just feature a conductor with language that says, experience the majesty of Beethoven. That's really gone. That doesn't really resonate with audiences these days. What may be a better idea, and what this second example perfectly does, is it shows the audience what's in it for them. So you do get the sense that you are at the symphony, but as you can see in the different thought bubbles, or maybe you can't see, but it is laying out the reason that each of those audience members attended. So gift for Mother's Day, special date night. So that really plants the seeds in potential audience members. They see this ad, oh yeah, there's all these reasons that, you know, I should go and check this out. And then I love this final example. This is actually from a symphony in Australia to promote a Beethoven show that they were doing, but they are positioning him as super contemporary and relevant today with the angsty before Cobain. This was obviously a few years ago, but another example of really thinking outside the box on how to do it. Okay, do you want to wrap it up?
Sure.
Okay.
We can wrap it up together.
All right.
So, as we know, we went through a lot of material really quickly. We're going to have a Q&A right after this. And this workshop is really setting the stage for our next two workshops, which are going to dive more into media relations with the arts media and the social media. So when you leave here today, just a few things to remember if you're overwhelmed by all of the information. We hope that the resource packet will give you some guidelines to follow. So build your PR plan. Like, that's really important, and it'll help you feel not so overwhelmed by how you can reach out and get media attention. And figure out your budget. Do you have a large budget? Can you possibly hire an agency? Maybe you can. Agencies, they can be really great tools, and there are some amazing agencies in town that can work with artists and can help you create your branding or your PR campaigns or your marketing campaigns. And then identify key people in your organization or involved in your project that can help you. Like I said, if you're not the strongest writer, find someone that is a strong writer. If you maybe aren't great at creating graphic design or flyers, find someone that can. So you want to just be able to utilize those people around you and then cross-promote. If you look around, all of these people in here today, y'all are all creative. So get together, meet each other, network, and figure out how you can support each other and exchange ideas on what PR marketing efforts have worked for you.
Yeah, okay. And there are also some great local resources. The Cultural Arts Division, we are always here to help you. Austin Creative Alliance, Art Alliance Austin, and there are many others. And there are some great online resources. We have included that in your packet. I've included a couple of bloggers that I follow and the National Arts Marketing Project website. So others have done this before us. Use those as resources for you. And then, if you want to learn more, please do join us for the next workshop, which is social media marketing and audience engagement. We will have Allie Klein, who is the digital content strategist at Texas Monthly, will be leading that. And then finally in October, we're going to conclude the workshop series with an arts media roundtable. And that will be your opportunity to ask journalists, including Robert Ferris, Jean Claire Van Riesen, Nicole Rainey from Culture Map, Mike Lee from KUT, directly your questions. They will share with you what specifically resonates with them when they're looking at your releases and pitches. So be sure and join us for that. We are going to open it up now to questions. And as a final reminder, please do fill out the surveys and drop them on the table as you leave. That would really be helpful to us. So if you want to hang out, we are opening the floor to questions. And thank you so much for coming. We appreciate your time. Okay, if you have a question, if you don't mind, come and say it into the mic because we are filming this. That's another thing. Any of you that want to relive today, it will be posted to the Cultural Arts Division website along with copies of all of the handouts and PowerPoint. So you can find it there shortly. Okay, how can we help you?
Hey, thanks so much. This is really great. So you mentioned pitches and the press releases. So I'm assuming those go out digitally. And so do you have thoughts on subject lines, and do you send them out through like Constant Contact to a list? Like, how do you do that? What do you suggest for that? And then also, when you're writing those press releases, do they need to be copy pastable in, like, do we need to write the article for the media?
So,
Thank
that's
you.
great.
Sure.
Go ahead and answer, and we didn't talk about how to distribute and copy
Oh,
emails. And
yes.
so distribution.
Yes, thank you for that question.
Yeah, it's a really good question.
Okay, so everyone is going to develop their own style. I always create releases in both hard copy and digitally. You are going to want to email them. Nobody really sends them via mail anymore. So yes, you will want to format them appropriately for email. And a key thing to remember, do not attach a million high-res images and bog down the reporter's inbox. So no crazy attachments. Make sure that the release is formatted, the images are formatted, and this is critically important. When you are distributing your press release to a gazillion reporters, make sure you do not include their emails in the two-line. Blind copy them.
BCC everyone.
BCC everyone, okay? So I always just send the release to myself and put my media list in the blind copy section. Make sure you do not share emails of all the media with other media. Subject line. Do you want to take that?
Sure.
Short and sweet.
Yeah, I mean, I think to reiterate, Kathleen said, I'm just going to recap this real quick. Create your press release in a Word document, finalize it, then copy and paste it into an email, and then send it out and BCC everyone. Does that make sense? Okay. And then for subject line, usually I will pull from my headline. So if my headline of my release is, amazing, well, no, I wouldn't say amazing, but this new art show is happening this weekend, I'll put that in the subject line. I generally say you can pull the language from your headline.
Do you preface it with press release?
No, I never do. They will probably ignore it, honestly. Like, so you want to use something in your subject line that's catchy. Like whatever the hook is of what the news is that you're sharing, put that in the subject line so they'll find a reason, they'll be interested in opening it. And once they open it, they'll see for immediate release right at the top so they know that it's a press release. That indicates that what is to follow is a press release. Does that?
Yeah, and I would just make sure that in the lead paragraph, right up front, you communicate the 5 whys right up front, and then the writer can, determine if it's of interest and if they want to read further. They should not have to dig through your release to get the key information. That should be front and center.
And for pitching, same thing. Use it compelling, just catchy, personal. Make it personal for pitching, like in your subject line, like what you're trying to get there, what you're trying to communicate. And then a pitch is just an email. It's just draft it in an email and send it from your email.
To follow up on that, what's appropriate in terms of follow-up? Say you've sent the press release, you've sent the pitch, like how do you call them? Is that okay? Do you email them again? Like what's appropriate?
That's a really great question too, so go ahead.
Sure.
Yeah.
I do both. If I have a relationship with the journalist, I'm more comfortable calling them than those that I've never met. For those that I don't know, I typically follow up via email, but I give it a couple of weeks. So give yourself enough time that there is some wiggle room. So I would send the release. Maybe the next week I would send an email saying, wanted to make sure you got the release. And in your pitch letter, and I think Kristy touched on this, you need to convince them why this story is important for their publication. So for example, in the pitch sample that we've included in your packet, I talk about the performers of a play being voted in the Chronicle's best of, that they were winners of best of. So I tried to loop it in to, I was fictitiously pitching Robert at the Chronicle. So I said, not only does this play do X, Y, and Z, the two performers were actually winners of last year's Austin Chronicles Readers Poll. So anything that you can do to make this show seem like the perfect and natural fit for their publication. And again, you know, make sure you're pitching the appropriate people and the appropriate outlets.
And I would say, I usually, after I'm kind of the 3 strikes you're out rule. If I've sent the press release, I followed up with a pitch, and I followed up again with the follow-up pitch, and I haven't heard from this media, I will usually let it go. You know, be persistent, but don't stalk them or invade their personal, professional space. Okay, sure, great. Yeah.
Oh, do you mind if I ask one really quick? It's really quick. Do you guys have this stuff published on Google Docs as templates?
We will have all of this on the Cultural Arts Division website shortly,
Okay.
and that is austincreates.com.
Okay, you should look into making them templates.
Okay,
Yeah, really good stuff.
thank you for
Thank
that
you so much.
suggestion. Yes,
I
ma'am.
have a question about the press release. That's fine. I can just exercise myself. That's fine. When you were just suggesting just attach a picture in your press release, but my question is, when you have an event with a multiple artists, will be good or bad if we just attach the main event, catchy picture, and others from those artists, or it will be negative if we like can overwhelm with a lot of pictures?
Yeah, don't do that.
Okay. No, it's
You want to talk to them about Dropbox or?
Sure. So what I recommend doing is taking your assets, whether it's video or photographs, and putting them on Dropbox or on Google Drive. My agency uses Flickr, which is really great, and it gives the journalists opportunity to download what they want in high-res formats. So use one lead photo in your press release to visualize your event. And then for all of the supporting photos, put a link to where they live, whether it's in Dropbox, Flickr, or Google Drive. Insert that link into your press release. Okay?
thank you so much.
Sure. Audio clip too, same thing. So whatever media assets you have, put them all in one folder with the name of your show or your organization, and that can include audio files, video files, and photographs. Just label them clearly so when a journalist goes there, they know what if they're looking for the audio clip, it'll say audio clip of whatever, so.
Hi. I had a question. You kept mentioning about who your audience was and your target audience. What kind of information are you using to determine that? I know that they have the media kit with the age group, but if you're a pretty broad group of artists, then how do you determine what resources are you using to determine that?
There are several ways. You can look at the analytics that are provided through social channels like Facebook. Through Facebook Insights, it will give you a breakdown of your audience. It will give you a snapshot of, you know, who the age range of your audience. And of course, there may be some of your audience that's not on social media, but that will be one place to start. That will give you kind of characteristics. Another thing, if you have an event, do a survey. Like we've done a survey and I listed one of the questions, how did you hear about it? I want to know if you saw our ad in the Chronicle or if you heard it on KUT. And you use information like that to find out where your audience is. So you can survey, you can do a survey through your e-news and ask, where are you guys? We want to make sure we're reaching you in the best way possible and do a survey that way. And then, you know, primarily it will be anecdotally. Look at who's coming to your events and just visually gauge, you know, the type of audience that you have. And then align what you see with the appropriate publication. Does that make sense? Sort of? Okay.
So I know we have one question here and a question here. Are there any other questions after this? A couple more? Okay.
Okay, you were talking about the final document on a press release. So is it a PDF form or Word doc? What would be better?
So created it as a Word document, and you can save it as a Word document and or a PDF. So the final document is for your records, and you'll keep that on file, but when you're distributing it, it's going to be an email, so ultimately it doesn't matter. But I would create it as a Word document, definitely save it as a Word doc, and if you want to create a supplemental PDF, that's great too. Those can, like a PDF would be great on your website or somewhere else that you might want to post it internally.
Okay, and then there's a word limit on a long press release and a short, right?
The kind of general rule of thumb is no more than 2 pages. As few words as possible that you can use to tell your story in a compelling way, the better.
Okay, so it's not like 300 words or,
No, that
okay.
doesn't, that's not really applicable so much these days, but it is true that anything beyond 2 pages is just overkill.
much.
At that point, you're kind of writing the article for them. Sure.
So I work in multiple different medias, from performance to poetry and sculpture, and I'd like to get some tips on consistency and branding. I've already got a lot of work in on one brand with the domain and everything, but it seems hard to spin everything into one package.
I'll have a question, and I'll let Kathleen answer your question. What's your brand? What do you do? What do you have right now?
Relaxotron,
Relaxotron?
yeah, so ambient DJ stuff, and then the art and performance artists, and then for
Okay, so you're a hybrid. You're like a slashy, like you're a DJ slash performance artist slash poet.
Yeah, and
Okay.
I have a robot page.
Oh, wow. Okay, great.
I have that domain as well.
All right, so you've got a sort of complex set of skills that you want to brand into one.
The idea is how to avoid it seeming like it's scattered, not even that it has to be about me and what I do, what my brand does, but I think we all do 16 things, and it just sounds like we don't know what we're doing.
Understood.
Well, in terms of a graphic representation that can be used across platforms, I would go with something that suggests creativity but doesn't pin you to any specific media, at the expense of others. I may suggest that you separate out the robot petting zoo. That kind of seems like it's its own animal. But for all of your creative pursuits, I would come up with not a generic, but kind of an all-encompassing sort of graphic that is appropriate for your various, pursuits. And then that would be kind of the high-level branding. And then underneath, maybe there's a section on your website, check out my paintings, check out this, check out that. But I would put them all under kind of the larger umbrella of a creative but less specific. You don't want to have a logo for each endeavor. That's just going to confuse your messaging.
I would add to that, that's really great advice, and I would add that write your elevator pitch. Figure out how to explain who you are and what creative services you offer, what art you bring to this world in 2 sentences, and then build from there. Because if you can get that down, if you can succinctly explain in 2 sentences, there's your brand. Like, what is it? What do they all have in common? What do all those things have in common? Find that out, that common thread, create that elevator pitch or artist statement in 2 sentences, and then start working on your branding from there.
Kind of just answered my question a little bit, but I have the same issue that he does. I'm an artist, but also an art teacher, and I feel like my audience is very wide because my art is more geared towards a younger audience, but then my art classes are more geared towards an older audience, and they're not on social media, and I feel like I'm kind of all over the place on social media.
I have a question. What's your goal?
To get more people to sign up for my classes, but then also to get people to come out to my shows, and that doesn't always overlap in my audiences.
Right. So you want to establish yourself as an artist, establish your reputation, and you want to increase enrollment in your art classes.
Right. So it feels like I've got like these 2 separate hats, and I'm either putting on the art teacher hat, taking that off, putting on the artist hat, and I don't feel like I've got a art teacher Instagram, and then I've got my art Instagram, and it feels like it's very separate, and I don't know how to tie them together without feeling, like he was saying, just all over the map.
Well, what is kind of the bulk of your practice? Is it the teaching or the art making?
I mean, it's both.
Yeah.
They are very separate, so I guess that's just part of the problem.
Right. because I was going to suggest that you place greater emphasis on one or the other, but once people were there, then they could, you know, receive information about the kind of secondary, but it seems like they're both kind of on par.
Right.
Again, my advice would just be, you know, what I shared with the gentleman earlier, just graphically find something that encompasses, that's more neutral, that's not specific to one or the other, or in your case, because they're so closely related, perhaps part of your graphic identity, there's maybe a mark, and then it says art teacher, artist. So that's kind of built in straight away. It's like every time you go out, it's the whole package.
Right. Well, and
You
I feel
know?
more comfortable branding the art teacher side than I do the artist side, because I guess it feels a little like, I don't know, to make a logo for my art feels a little like selling out. Is that?
It could just be your name. It could just be
Yeah.
your name. You
Okay.
could have some, you know, beautifully designed treatment of your name, and then underneath, artist, art teacher, something like that.
Okay.
And the social media workshop will go into, like, you might consider combining those accounts
Yeah.
because you can capture both audiences. So these are things to consider. Figure out your goals.
I actually had them combined, and then I recently separated them because I felt like it was getting too cluttered, and then I had pictures of my student work that felt amateur next to my work. I didn't want people at a glance to look at my art page and be like, oh, that's her art, 'cause that's her art, you know, so I separated the student stuff.
Well, I would say establish your goals and kind of work from there. Yeah.
And if you keep them separate, you know, you can cross-promote. Hey, check out this page, hey, you know, and so that there's some connection and continuity between them.
I am doing that, and I guess it still feels a little.
Disjointed, okay.
So I think, what was your name?
Oh, Adrian.
Adrian. So I think Adrian has, as we've heard a couple of times, there are artists and creatives here with many different projects going on. And so that can be challenging, but I just encourage everyone to establish their goals and make a plan, even if it's just make a plan for just launching and increasing your business as an art teacher, and then come back to figuring out how to capture those students and that audience to help bring them to your shows. So kind of get focused on some goals and work from there.
Hey, my name is Yama, and I felt like making an example of guerrilla marketing. If anybody here cares about handmade paper, even the possibility of free handmade posters for your event, catch me after this is over.
Oh, great, thank you.
All right, do you have a question?
Hi. Got here a little late, I apologize for that, but my question is, I'm an abstract artist, I'm also a folk artist. My goal is to tie the abstract art in with fundraising and political events within the city and probably within the state. What is the best or effective way to utilize social media to bring in my audience? Like, of course, I have a lot of politicians already on my page, but what would be the best way to utilize my social media page to bring in the audience and my art? I'm doing that now, but the structure of my Facebook page is more personal. I guess what I want to talk about is how do I create a page that will attract a larger audience for Texas?
So do you mean, you mentioned like entering your work into the kind of political sphere. Are you hoping to attract that type of audience or just grow your audience generally?
I'm hoping to attract an audience that the abstract art to attract voters, as well as political issues within the state.
Okay.
So,
I would do that a couple of different ways. I would tag organizations, the Facebook pages of organizations that you are trying to affiliate with,
Okay.
be it a political group or whatever. Tag them in some of your posts, so that will make them aware of you and their audiences aware of you. So that's one way that you could do it. I would also post some political content, you know, start populating your page with the type of ideology that you're trying
I have
to.
plenty of that on my page already. So that's
Yeah.
great. I guess I'm a chick from the 70s, so I have a challenge, chick from the 70s. I have a challenge with connecting a lot of the tagging and things like that, just a little bit small issues.
Yeah.
But I get the full picture of what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's just that I have a challenge with connecting a lot of the tags and stuff with
Just
my
the
audience. So
logistics
just a
of
little
it?
bitty tiny stuff that I need assistance with.
You know
Will
what?
you guys have a class on that, or is there a workshop on your page
Yes.
that we can view to take a look at it?
Yes, the next class that we're having September 5th at 6 at the Doherty Arts Center is dedicated specifically to social media. So those types of things, how to tag, the kind of minutia of social media will be covered in depth at that presentation.
Awesome.
And it will, if you can't make it, it'll be posted to our website shortly after.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. I'm sorry? Yes, and we are going to open up some additional seats for that, but do get there early. I think the capacity at the DAC is about 150. So, hi.
Hi, I have a question from the previous questions. If there's one creative person operating two very different projects, maybe two distinct companies, why not brand them separately? Do you have thoughts about that?
If they are very different,
Very different.
yeah, then they should be. They should be. And you should have separate strategies for each. If you just happen to be project managing two things that are totally unrelated, other than the fact that they may be cultural, I would totally do separate branding, PR plan, because the audiences may well be different, your goals may well be different, so I would do them separately.
Thanks.
So can it like negatively, do you think that it can negatively impact, I'm also an artist that do very separate things with very, very, very different audiences. Can it negatively impact one to the other? Like if, when you're doing two, like marketing them as two separate ones? Like,
For example, if you're doing like a really maybe provocative performing art
Yes.
show, but also you are do family-oriented shows too, right?
or commodifiable art, yeah, but yeah.
I don't think it would negatively impact you. I mean,
But you may market them separately because your audiences would be different. The outlets that you want to, work with may be different. So yeah, I mean, if there is a relationship, if you are just a visual artist and you're doing a few different things, I think you can find a way to creatively do some high-level branding that will encompass all that you do. But if they're very distinct things, then they should have, their own separate identity and plan.
and I wouldn't include. Yeah, like I wouldn't include like both of those things in the same press release. For
Right.
example. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Okay, great. I just want to point out for everyone that stuck around, you obviously have a great hunger for this information, and I know that we covered a lot of things broadly, and we'd love to dive into some more of them more specifically, and that's something that we will be doing with these other workshops. But if you want to leave us any questions, like on your feedback, like we wish you would have talked more about press releases or anything like that, let us know, and that way we can help build this content and have it available for you in the future.
Okay. One last question. Okay. It's at City of Austin Arts. That is an example of what not to do. That is a handle that I inherited. It's a good point. That is precisely the issue with having a vague or disconnected handle. You were looking for us and you weren't able to find us. And because intuitively, I'm sure you were searching for Cultural Arts Division. So that is precisely why you should choose a handle that will clue people in to be able to find you easily.
So what was the handle?
It's at City of Austin Arts.
Okay, thank you everyone
Yes,
for coming.
thank you so much.
We really appreciate it.
And
We will see you soon.
yes, do fill out your surveys if you don't mind and drop them on the back table. Thank you.